Hey everyone, Genome here, coming at you with the next episode of my Hack and or Slash series. This is the series where I take a look back at horror movies of old and see if they still hold up today. Veritably, do they still make the cut? I gotta work that pun in somehow. So yeah, anyway, as of late, I have been reviewing the Nightmare on Elm Street series. And in doing so, I have now come upon the 5th installment. And, yeah. All right, so we are going to talk about none other than Nightmare on Elm Street 5, The Dream Child. This 1989 cinema masterpiece was a really odd duck in the series. Yeah, I don't even know sometimes what they were thinking, but anyway, I know there are some leftover elements from this story from earlier Nightmare movies, I think even penned by Wes Craven, but I think they got a little bit lost in the shuffle here. So let's take a look back at the movie and see if it holds up. Once again, or I'm sorry, I didn't even mention it, it was directed by Stephen Hopkins. Man, I can't speak today. Stephen Hopkins, got it. All right. So, yeah, this is a direct sequel, even more so than some of the other films in the series of Part 4, The Dream Master. All that being said, I'll give you the briefest of plot synopsis here because there really isn't much to talk about. And then I'll go into the pros and or cons, of which there could be lots of the latter, toward the end of the video. So, warning, spoiler alerts ahead. If you were planning on watching this movie and want to see it fresh and not ruined, because there's sort of a twist here, if the titles give it away, hit pause, stop watching me now, go watch the movie, then make sure to come back and watch the rest of this video, because I don't want to ruin it for everybody. Because basically the twist is the only thing that makes this movie even slightly interesting. So, the briefest of plot synopsises. Here it goes. Big spoiler. Here it is. The big twist. Alice, from Part 4, The Dream Master, is pregnant with Dan's baby, the football jock that she was pining after in the first movie. The baby is Freddie's vessel to return in the series. Yep. So, that's basically it. There's a lot of other stuff wrapped around this little tiny little nugget of coolness, but that is it. There is really nothing else going on here. There is some brief cameo action from Dan. He is actually one of the, 3 kills that are actually in this movie. So, yeah, Alice is not going to be lucky in love. But, so basically we're introduced to a whole new set of Elm Street children, basically cannon fodder, right? Who are all completely oblivious to the history of what's happened just this last year in the school, right? Since they're all in high school together, right? I guess they didn't realize that, 5 or 6 people died in the last movie in the space of a year, and before that, the history of children does not go well in that town, so all completely oblivious. They all believe that Alice is crazy until the kids start dropping again. But yeah, so that's basically it. So what happens is Alice hooks up with Dan. They're an item now, and she gets knocked up. And in doing so, that is the vessel for Freddy's return somehow, because they go through great lengths to say in the movie that babies spend tons of time in REM sleep while they're in utero. What's really weird in this movie is, I'm not sure how long she's been pregnant. She doesn't even know, but the in utero baby they're showing looks to be pretty developed. I mean, 3rd trimester along, fully developed hands, fingers, head and all that stuff. I don't know. Whatever. Don't look for a lot of logic in this movie. But anyway, so this is the cool part, is Freddie can now come back and haunt other people's dreams, disregarding Alice. So she's awake when a lot of these deaths happen, right? She can't figure out what's going on until she talks to the doctor, and they figure out it's the baby's dreams that he's invading, and in doing so, reaching out to her friends to kill other kids, right? Since the baby doesn't know these people, I'm not sure how that's working. Once again, there's a lot of leaps you got to make in this movie. But maybe because the baby knows through Alice. I don't know. There's some scenes throughout this movie that shows basically a manifestation of her baby Jacob in basically like 8-year-old, 9-year-old form, right?
Shouldn't you be in your room, Jacob?
It's lonely there.
That tries to give some insight into this, but it's not really focused well, and it's not clear. But basically, Freddie is just using him to be reborn again somehow. He's reborn in the dream state, and he's able to get up to his old hijinks, right? It seems like what he's going to be doing, though, is taking over the physical body of the baby. He's feeding the baby the souls of the children he's killing in the dream world, which he used to collect into himself. So I guess he wants to be a physical entity again, or he's going to have the baby be born and just use the baby like Alice, just as a battery, a drawing-in vessel of bringing other victims in. That, once again, not really spelled out. I guess it would make some kind of sense because he could, manipulate the child from birth, basically, and turn him basically into an unwanting or unwilling, accomplice in all this, and not even know he's doing it. Whatever the case may be, that's probably too deep of thinking for this film. But it's an interesting notion, and it's different. It's very, very different. But yeah, everything else around this is just kind of weird. This movie's incredibly disjointed, but I guess that's getting past this synopsis. So, long and short of it, Freddie is reborn somehow. Couple of kids die toward the center parts. Alice figures out what's going on. A final confrontation happens. We are once again introduced to Amanda Kruger and get a little bit of her backstory, at least of how Freddie was conceived.
Come on, will you? Shut up! Make me lose the count.
From the nun from part 3, the spectral nun, and she has a pretty large role in this movie, at least in the finale, right? And then at the end, the beast is vanquished, so to speak, but it looks like it's going to be a short-lived affair because, once again, another spoiler here, Amanda absorbs Freddie back into herself.
Stay back! Take your baby and leave!
Basically reversing his birth, but he's busting out of her at the very end, so it doesn't look like she can hold him for very long, so I don't know what's going on. And of course, at the end, we see the obligatory scene foreshadowing his return, right? Gotta keep those sequels churning out.
How's my little grandson, huh? Hungry?
Mm-hmm. We all are.
Yeah, and that's basically it. Alice is back, reprising her role. Or actually, Lisa Wilcox is back, reprising the role of Alice. And once again, at least this time, though, she has some cognizance of what's going on in the dream world. She knows kind of Freddie's playing field and all that, and so she's kind of wise to him somewhat. She doesn't appear to have powers anymore like she got at the end of 4. Now, whether that's because all of the spirits were released by Freddie, which doesn't really make any sense to me, but maybe that's why they carry her power away. If she has them in this movie, she never uses them. Like, there's never a physical confrontation really between the two. There's no fisticuffs like there was. She stabs him like once during one sequence, but so she has none of the parkour powers. She has none of the super martial arts powers that she had before. But she still, she did retain like her assertiveness though, for the most part, especially in the dream world that she gained at the end of 4. Some other people you got Kelly Jo Minter as Yvonne. She's actually the steadfast friend who thinks Alice is really crazy, but then comes around at the end and is actually kind of the one that puts Freddie away for good via a very, very strange scene here. Let's just get to that strange scene real fast. I don't know. It's implied that Freddie killed his mother, the nun, and I guess in the old asylum he killed her there, hid her body behind a brick wall there, and there she sat kneeling for however many years, 30, 40 years. Yvonne breaks down the door, touches the piece of cloth on her, and she collapses, or she goes all Jedi style, right? Her skeleton disappears, and she says, "Thank you." And that's all she needed to be released, so she could go corral up Freddie, right? I don't know. I just... just roll with it. But anyway, Kelly Jo Minter plays that friend, and she actually gets to survive. Danny Hassel's back as Dan. He is actually involved in one of the, 3 kills that are in this movie. It's a really interesting and cool scene. He steals a VMAX, cool bike, right? You don't see that too often. And is basically turned into a human motorcycle hybrid.
This boy feels the need for speed.
It's a odd kill. All of the kills in this movie are completely odd.
Fuel injection!
And not as ironic. There's 2 of them ironic, but this one doesn't make any sense to me.
Hey, Danny, better not dream and drive.
Who else we got? We got Erica Anderson as Greta. She's the one whose mother has aspirations of her being a model, so she's like a total helicopter mom, watching every, calorie she puts in her body, making sure she gets in front of the cameras, that sort of thing. And she's a bit resentful of that. Hard to say I blame her. Who else did we have here? Nicholas Melee come back as Alice's dad. He actually plays a pretty good role. I liked him in the first movie. You didn't see much of him. And he's played a recovering alcoholic in this one. So, hey, that's cool. And then I think it's Joe Seeley plays Mark. And he is like the third member of the Scooby Patrol. A really wacky, I guess that's the nicest term I can use, caricature, comic book guy, right? Thanks a lot for painting us like that. But that basically rounds out everybody you see any amount of in this movie. There's some other bit characters, but nothing really is important here. Hey, I also forgot to mention the little boy, Jacob, played by Whit Hetford. He was like probably the best actor outside of Lisa Wilcox in this movie. I forgot to mention that. He was awesome. His timing and delivery is really good.
You don't look very well. Are you feeling all right?
Been having bad dreams.
Especially for a child actor, and he has a real gravity to him when he looks around, especially in the first scene in the hospital.
Is this where you live, Jacob?
Just waiting for someone.
Also in the Freddie house, or whatever, the Elm Street house, too. So, yeah, I didn't want to not mention him. He's another bright point to this movie, and it needs more of him, believe me. So, yeah, but basically, evil vanquished again, just in time for another sequel. So, yeah, I'm sorry if the plot synopsis seemed kind of disjointed. I want to make this one a little bit shorter, and there's just not a whole lot to talk about. Outside of the dynamic of Freddie trying to take over the child, Alice's child who's still in utero, there's nothing really here, and it's the same old shtick. There's no hero's journey like there was in the last movie, you know what I mean? And most of the characters you could care less about, as opposed to like 3 or even 1, so it's, I don't know, it's just, plot-wise, it's just strange. But anyway, let's get into the pros and cons, and maybe we can go into that a little bit more. So, some pros. The movie looks pretty good. Some of the sets are really cool. It has this gothic atmosphere, this gothic and / organic. There's like this flesh tunnel. I know that sounds kinky, but there's like this flesh tunnel that Freddie is sucking people down into at one point. Like, the asylum has, like, this fleshy matter that's growing all over the place and faces in the walls. It's kind of kooky, strange, but kooky and distinctive. But yeah, there's a real gothic feel to the asylum, this enormous asylum that's sitting out there unmolested after decades of being shut down, right? Okay, but yeah, there's some cool set pieces. Most of the effects look pretty decent. The Freddie baby looks pretty good. Some of the kills look pretty good, like the motorcycle kill with Dan looks really incredible. Amazing work done there. The other one's not quite as much, but they did try. But a lot of the set pieces look really nice. Freddie's makeup looks oddly melty, like melty plastic in this one. Not nearly as good as it was in Part 4 or Part 3. And his overall design, just it's not as good. Whatever it is, the case may be. Some of that, of course, is the dialogue he's given. But yeah, he doesn't look as good as he normally does. So there's a bit of a drop-off there. Everything else looks pretty well shot. You're not like straining to see things. It's a much darker film than 4 was. That's purposeful, but there's none of that like Aliens vs Predator bad. You can't see what's going on, so it's darker in a good way. The sound was nondescript. Nothing too bad, except for the jarring title sequence, or closing credit sequence. It's just something. It just does not fit this movie at all. It needs to be like an eerie, atmospheric soundtrack, and then you get like some really bad 80s hip-hop, It's just not good. I think it was the Fat Boys that did it. That could have been the second song in the credits of 4. I can't remember which, but either way, it doesn't really work. And there's this weird like disco like beat during Dan's like motorcycle scene, which is kind of strange. It's like they're trying to go for a Road Warrior kind of feel for it, but it really sounds more like something out of Friday the 13th Part 3. That kind of disco inferno, early 80s beat, just strangeness. But anyway, so sounds okay. Other pros. Interesting central concept. Very interesting central concept. One of the more interesting of the series, actually. Doesn't really pan out well after that, but it has that going for it. So, and Lisa Wilcox is not bad. Once again, it's Alice. I like her. She's a good final girl in the series. I like her much better than I did Nancy. She doesn't have any really much progression in this one, but she has like when she looks concerned on film, she actually looks concerned. Some people just can't pull that off, actors and actresses, and she does that very well. She's given some pretty hacked stuff to say in this. I don't blame her for that.
Alice,
Dan's been in an accident.
It was no accident, it was Kruger. He used to come in through my dreams, but not anymore. He found some other way.
What are you going to do? So she does a pretty good job. Everyone else is pretty nondescript. Yeah, I said, I like Dad. I think his name is Dennis. Don't quote me, I don't think it's ever said on screen, but he plays a pretty good role, actually. He has a kind of, he seems like he might have been recovering from something, you know what I mean? He has real gravity to him in a way. You don't see, once again, you'll see very much of him, but, so he's not bad. So, yeah, I can't think of too much else that was really good about this. So, let's get on to the cons. This is going to be the bigger section, right? The cons is basically everything else that I didn't just mention. This story, let's start with the story. This story is all over the place. It sort of moves in a direction, but it just feels so disjointed. It's like a bunch of set pieces. I know this is a movie definition. It's just like, it feels like a bunch of set pieces just jammed together in the same movie, with very little correlation with each other. There's a central kind of theme of, moving into the end game to fight Freddie, but a lot of just strange stuff happens, and a lot of the dialogue is so wonky. And once again, Alice spends half the movie trying to, get people to realize that Freddie's back, and it's like, it should be very obvious because people are dying once again, and the town is rife with children's bodies, for goodness sake, because of this guy. And unexplained deaths. You'd think they'd be a little more receptive to it. The friends, they are a real mixed bag. Yvonne, played by Shelley Jo Minter's definitely the most believable of them, because she's a candy striper, so she's in the medical field, and she's basically telling Alice that she's kind of nuts, but even if she is, she needs to be more quiet around authority figures, or they're going to get her committed, so she actually speaks a little bit of wisdom, despite her being very hesitant to believe Alice. The Mark kid. Oh, wow.
How's he doing it?
Why don't you two stick to reality?
Why don't you shut up and let her talk? I mean, 2 of us have died in the past 2 days. Does that strike you as particularly normal?
There's some bad cringe involving him. Dialogue, delivery, just a lot of cringe. It's hard to watch. I will say this, though. He does seem to care. He tries. He does try in the role. So I don't know if it was bad direction or what, or just it was, maybe a little above his pay grade or whatever. But so he definitely tries to inject a little drama, but it just doesn't come naturally. And the scenes with him usually are kind of some of the more draggy scenes in the movie. Greta, you don't see too much of her. And she's not horrible at what she does. She's just a conveniently placed body for Freddie to mutilate, right? And she gets a little more screen time than the average slasher victim does, but not much. And so you just feel a little bit of empathy for her because she has an overbearing mother, right?
But we're having a party, dear.
I read about him.
And maybe she's getting pushed in something she want to be, but it's not like you become invested in her. So the cast is... Oof. Even Freddie seems to be phoning it in. Robert Englund, the master thespian himself, does not... he does exactly what I'm sure he's told to do here.
A real friend, Jade. Just like a daddy.
And he can't fix the dialogue, and he can't fix the premise of this movie. But it's like... I don't know, it's just... there was some gravity to him in, 1 and 3, and a tiny bit in 4. There's none here. It's, he says the Hackney stuff like, "It's a boy," when he first comes back, and it's like, oh.
It's a boy!
It's like, just stop with the one-liners, please, because these don't hit at all. At least the ones in 3 and 4 hit somewhat. These are just awful. And the freaking waiter scene where he's being the buffoon while he's killing her, and it's just...
Bon appetit!
Oh, I don't get it. Whatever. And he is taken to toying with his food again, because there's some pretty unnecessarily long kills in this. Because if he's just collecting souls, he doesn't need to worry about fear anymore. I don't know why he's playing these people, other than being sadistic, But it lets one guy get away, at least temporarily, because he's doing that, so... Whatever, cast, pretty bad. Robert is good, don't get me wrong, he's good in this, it's just the Freddie character itself is bad in this, so... Yeah, not good. Some of the effects are pretty bad. I did say a lot of them are good, but some of them are pretty bad. There's a really bad scene in there where the green screen is basically coloring out part of the bottom of the screen. I'll even show it to you here. I do the same thing with my lights here or whatever or sometimes I'll miss a shadow or something in my green screen, but I'm sitting here in my office, for goodness sake. This is not a Hollywood production, so yeah, there's a couple of pretty shoddy effects in this. I'm getting back to the overall premise of this movie is just bad. It's a cool concept, but it's it was a highly rushed thing. I think this whole thing took a month or something to shoot from initial script out. So it was a really rushed affair, and it shows. It just feels disjointed. I watched it twice, a couple days apart. I wanted to make sure I wasn't being too harsh on this thing because, for one thing, some of it just didn't make sense. But it just seems so meandering and all over the place. It's not cohesive at all. The ending fight with Freddie is strange and ridiculous. They have this like section where Jacob the child is now out in the dream world with Freddie, and Freddie's trying to lure him to the side, and Jacob runs away. You know, there's lots of different things going on, and they start running around in this MC Escher-esque atmosphere, and it's playing like carnival music and stuff. It's so stupid.
Come on, Jacob!
And it takes you completely out of the movie, and takes any kind of tension that they had built up, which was none, basically, completely out of the movie. There's a couple of good scenes where she's walking down decrepit old hallways and stuff that do build tension, because, you know, Lisa Wilcox can show fear in her eyes. And then they completely ruin it with crap like that, or some of Freddie's misplaced one-liners, because he's not just telling him when he's killing you now, he's just telling him, you know, regardless.
Thanks, babe. It's my new look. Like it?
The kills are kind of goofy. I know, now this one, some things got cut. I know the MPA cut a couple things. So, like, Greta's death doesn't make a ton of sense until you see the uncut version. I don't have it, but spoiler alert, he's actually feeding her, like, her own intestines and insides. Pretty disgusting, actually, that she chokes to death on. Her face gets all big and cartoony looking, so stupid. It's just ill-advised scene. Dan's death supposedly went on for like another minute that we see out of the theatrical cut, so that would be interesting, because they definitely the most interesting kill and most visually appealing kill of the movie. But yeah, you don't see it, most of it. That's the other thing. And then there's the kill of Mark or whatever, the comic book kill. This one's infamous.
Time to die, you scar-faced lint dick!
And this is infamous, I think, for a very bad reason, and that is just, it's stupid. It's so stupid. Somehow he figures out that he's a dream warrior too. He makes some leaps, this guy does. I think he did make some mention of it earlier in the movie, but it doesn't really pertain to dreams, and it doesn't really say anything about obtaining dream powers, but he turns into a comic book character that he designed, right? Then he thinks he kills off Freddie, and then Freddie, of course, comes back, because nothing's going to kill him there, and he comes back as Super Freddie.
Faster than a bastard maniac!
Oh.
More powerful than a loco madman! Yes! Super Freddie!
It's beyond the pale bad. And then he does the kill. I think the kill's pretty inventive, actually. And it is pretty sadistic of Freddie, how he does it. Execution's a little iffy. But right before he does it, he does the worst. And I'm telling you, the worst one-liner so far in the series, and it's possibly the entire series, but I know Freddy's Dead has some bad ones, like Beat My High Score and stuff, but this one's so awful.
Told ya! Comic books was bad for ya!
Told you that comics was bad for you. Ugh. It's like you're going back to, like, 50 schlock. Whatever. I'm not going to waste too much more time on it. This movie's just bad. Okay, let's just get down to it. There's nothing. This is not much of a redeemable movie. It's not torture to sit through, but I definitely don't want to watch it anymore. It's better than 2 by virtue is at least still it is a Nightmare on Elm Street movie, and there's some pretty cool imagery in there. Like there's a scene where Alice goes into this empty field, and in the trees shadows grows, and it's a great way of filling the audience with dread that Freddy's coming back, right? And there's another scene where Alice screams, "No, not again!" It's like, even though a lot of the lip syncs do not match up to the screams of this movie, there's like a scream from Alice in the Diner that completely doesn't match, and then in that scene too, where she's screaming, "No, not again!" It just doesn't work with what's shown on screen. But so I mean, there's a couple of good things like that, but yeah, it's just the movie's all over the place. It's just not good. I'm gonna give this a 1 out of 5.
It sucks!
Honestly, I can't give it any higher than that. I don't want to watch this again. 2 is enough time. Actually, technically 3 by the time I pull clips and all that for it. So that's enough for me. I had not seen this movie in 25 years, and I didn't remember not liking it back then. I certainly don't like it now.
I can feel your anger.
Much anger in him.
Your hate has made you powerful.
Yeah, I'm sorry to any fans of this film. I can't forgive the overall product of this film for a cool premise. You know what I mean? They should have done a better job with it. That's all I can say. You know, unfortunately, the sequels have definitely declined in quality, especially since 4, and because we have another one to go that's considered to be the doldrums completely of the entire series. So, oh, Freddie, why would you do this to me? So anyway, yeah, I'm gonna give this a 1 out of 5 stars. It's not good. Probably enjoyable to the hardcore fan, but like if you showed this to somebody who'd never seen the series before, I guarantee they probably not want to watch the rest of the series because they're like, where's the appeal in this? I see nothing. I don't care about these characters whatsoever. I don't care about this protagonist. And Freddie's barely in this movie, too. That's another thing, too. We got used to seeing more of him, like 3 or 4. And then in this movie, it's like, he's like a bit player in this movie. But anyway, yeah, not recommended. I'm sorry. I just didn't really enjoy it. So anyway, thanks for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe. There'll be more review content here in the near future. Make sure to join the Gene Bank and leave your comments down below and let me know what you think about the review and the movie in general. And if you don't want to talk about my review, you know, was I a little too harsh on it? Was I not harsh enough? You be the judge. But you know, my old motto is, if I can review it, I will do it. So there's be plenty more review content coming up here in the near future. And oh boy, here we go. I got still got a couple more Nightmare movies to do. And part 6 is next, so I think we all know what that means. So anyway, thanks for watching. Until next time, this is Genome. Just very glad he doesn't have to watch this movie again. Out.
Comic books was bad for you.